the Technicolor view of Share's tools. Have you all heard that word Technicolor in the way that we use it at Share?
No.
So when television first came out, it was black and white, right? So when color televisions came out, they called it Technicolor, and it was a big deal, right? And what it means is, the way we use the word Technicolor at Share is, it's not a black and white issue. It has gradation. It has different colors in it. It has nuances and complexity. That's when we use the word Technicolor, we're not referring to television sets. We're talking about the complexity of a concept or of an approach that isn't just, okay, it has to be A or B. I think you kind of heard Ruth talking about that in the staff meeting, where she was talking about how we're looking for solutions that work for multiple parties, where it doesn't just have to be my way or the highway. It's not like this way or that way. Oftentimes people early in recovery tend to see things in black and white because they need to simplify things. But as we grow in our recovery, we get a richer and more nuanced view of reality. So I want to say a couple of important things about these tools. One is that as staff at Share, we offer AAA to the people that we serve, and we're constantly thinking about building community, and that's kind of our primary intervention. We set boundaries differently than we might in our own recovery process or with our family and friends. And I think this is important because many of us have had to set boundaries with other people in our lives who don't have a healthy way of being. And yet we might be setting different boundaries with similar folks in the work that we do at Share. So it's not that we don't have boundaries at Share, it's just that we're setting them differently than we would in our personal life. Like, there are things that happen at Share that I would probably respond to in a really different way if it was like my cousin or something like that. You know, like, for example, I went to Share and there was an African-American man who would call me a cracker. And he would always save saltine crackers for me and give them to me to eat. And he had this real, like, a lot of tension around white people and especially white women. And so I had to work hard at trying to have a relationship with him that was a healthy one, that was based on respect. But over time, you know, we really came to, you know, I really fought for him on a couple of occasions. He's kind of an amazing person, and maybe I can tell you more about him on another time. But what I'm saying is that I might have responded to that differently if it was my cousin saying it to me. You know what I mean? Like, part of what we're doing at Share is that we're recognizing that large segments of our community have been excluded and looked down on and pushed away. And we're trying not to do that. We're trying to catch the people falling through the cracks. And so that's what these tools are really about. So that's the first thing. And, you know, it just occurred to me that I should add an additional point to this, which is that in this training, we're thinking about relationships. We're thinking about it very consciously and very intentionally. And so what sometimes happens is that when we talk to each other as colleagues, people will be like, are you using the tools on me? Like, it becomes a point of, like, we wonder about the authenticity of our interactions sometimes.
I've had that.
You've already had that experience. Okay. So like, I think that it's one of the costs of doing this work that we are among people who actually get training on how to have friends. Most people don't have that kind of training. They just go out and have friends and they don't really think about it that much. But it's like, because we're putting so much conscious attention on it, there can be like a question mark in my mind, like, are you actually being real with me, or are you just using tools on me? Like, where's the realness? And I think that that's just something to be aware of as we sort of take on, you know, this role. The other thing is that as employees at Share, we and our supervisors, we're accountable to Share's mission, to the organizational needs. You know, we've got to try to pay our bills, for example, and we're also trying to follow California employment law. We all play a role in serving Share's healing mission, but, you know, some of the benefits we get, our salaries, our benefits, in return, we have job duties to fulfill. We get constructive feedback about it. We have performance reviews. We try to follow California employment law. We have to take our lunch breaks in a certain period of time. We have to use shares resources wisely. And in those ways, you know, we're like any other small business. We're just trying to operate our organization and get things done. So our supervisors aren't necessarily using these tools with us because they're following all of these other needs. I do hope that if you're new to Share, I know a couple of you are pretty new to Share, definitely take a look at the employee handbook, which kind of spells out your responsibility to Share as well as Share's commitment to you. I think it's really good to have a handle on that. But I also think like it's possible that you'd have a meeting with your supervisor where you're like, how come they're not using the tools with me? That's does not feel like AAA. You know, like if you're getting some feedback about how your performance needs to improve, you might feel like that's not in alignment with this teaching. But the thing is, as supervisors, we've got to hold people accountable to their jobs, just as we hold ourselves accountable to these jobs. And I think this is one of the things that is hard about learning these tools. So I should add that other point. It's like sense that our relationships are authentic. So I do think that's one of the challenges that we face in trying to navigate working at Share. At Share, we are basically like paid friends. And that's kind of a weird thing. Like it's a cool thing that we get paid to do this, to be people in recovery, but it's also, it's kind of a weird thing. Like friendship is not something you can really put a value on. And yet we're drawing a salary for doing that. And so I just want to observe that as one of the things that I think can challenge us as we try to master these tools, we try to apply them in our practice, and we see other people around us trying to apply them. And we also see our supervisors like supervising us, and we have, you know, deliverables and deadlines to meet and things like that.